Your coverage under Obamacare may be in jeopardy tonight if you have it. The Department of Health and Human Services says more than 2 million people, that's a lot of them, 2.1 million people who've signed up, they have errors in their applications. And for some folks, that means they'll have to pay more. For others, well, they could lose their coverage entirely. To help us sort this out, we're joined by Dr. Sreedhar Potarazu. So, Dr. P, welcome to the show. Nice to have you here. What are these big problems?
The big problems are, as you said, people not being able to sign up and adequately verify their income or falsely reporting what their income is. As you know, part of it has to be self-reported right now, which wasn't the original intent, but is the way that it works right now. And there's a lot of room for errors. So when you have to verify the income as well as the eligibility requirements, this is where those 2 million people and probably more are falling through the cracks. And what will happen is that if, in fact, the government finds out that people didn't report their income accurately, they may go after them on their tax returns.
Okay, let's break this down because you covered a whole lot of ground there. First of all, how does the government even know that I'm reporting the wrong number for income?
So they're going to eventually go back and look at your tax returns and match it up.
But they're not doing that now.
They're not doing that right now. So they're going to use some kind of estimate based on what the individual is telling them and do some kind of verification, but based on employment and some other information that they're gathering. But that's precisely the point, is that there isn't a lot of information that is available right now for what these consumers are reporting on. So there's a lot of room for fraud.
So here's what we're looking at. 2.1 million application errors, mistakes, lies. 1 in 4 applicants has a problem, okay? And half of that, a good deal of that, a quarter of that, is immigration data. But if you really break it down, about half of it is people who are saying that they are citizens of this country or here legally, and people who aren't, because we're not giving Obamacare to people who are not here legally.
Right.
And the other half is the income issue, which you're mentioning. My problem is I don't really understand how the government's verifying any of this, and they know that things that I'm saying are not true because, let's face it, there have been a few problems with the Obamacare website.
Well, especially when you talk about the immigration information, this is not going to be the first time that we've seen issues in terms of where legal immigration or illegal immigrants have been able to seep through the cracks. I mean, an example is if you look at the president's expansion of the state children's health insurance program, they loosened the requirements in terms of what needed to be recorded in terms of their immigration status. And you see a lot of people who are finding loopholes or erroneously reporting their legal status in terms of getting these benefits. And unfortunately, the policing of this in terms of having the systems in place, which is what you were alluding to earlier, are just not there. Right. So in order to be sophisticated enough to integrate the immigration database along with the verification database on the insurance side is virtually impossible. They barely got the basics to put in place in terms of the enrollment, let alone the integration with either the INS or with the IRS.
Wow, but they're claiming they do. So some folks are going to get a tab. They're going to get like a bill from the government. Is that what's going to happen?
Well, it may not so much be a bill as much as it is, let's say that you're due a credit or a refund on your tax return. If they're actually able to go back and verify in out years that, in fact, you didn't adequately report your income, they would, use that in terms of seizing it against your credit. Now, remember in the past that they said the IRS wasn't going to be that aggressive, at least in terms of enforcing the penalties. But what they never really got into was whether the IRS has the wherewithal or the bandwidth in terms of being able to go through the income verification and in terms of how well they're going to be able to enforce it for those that haven't adequately reported.
It's an amazing story to me how this is all working and not working. Dr. Potarazu, thanks for coming on tonight.